it's Janelle. Welcome back to Steamy Vegan Kitchen. I am so glad you decided to tune in. It's Christmas time, the holidays are here, and that means it's time to make all the delicious baked goods, share them with your friends and family, and just pig out. It is the time to enjoy all the foods. But if you are newly vegan or gluten-free, this time of year might be kind of deflating. A lot of your favorite foods might kind of be off the table. And that's no fun. So I am here to show you guys 2 awesome holiday baking recipes that you can share with your friends and family and enjoy as much of them as you want. They are gluten-free and vegan, of course, and today we're gonna be making candy cane shortbread and my grandma's famous Welsh tea cake recipes. It's a famous Welsh treat that is kind of the perfect combination between a scone and shortbread. Traditionally, Welsh tea cakes are actually made with a ton of butter and lard. Yeah, lard. But, you know, we're vegan here, so no lard, no butter. We're gonna use a lot of vegan butter, and they're gonna be delicious. Quick side note, if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please do hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so that you never miss out on any more of my awesome recipes. I post 1 to 2 times a week, and I got lots more up my sleeve for the holiday season and coming up in the new year. All right, guys, let's get into the recipes and enjoy some holiday baking. First up is our candy cane shortbread. For this recipe, you will need 4 cups of gluten-free all-purpose flour, 2 tablespoons of cornstarch or tapioca starch, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 pound of vegan butter, 1.5 cups of icing sugar, and 1/2 cup of crushed candy canes. So in a large mixing bowl, you're going to want to sift in all of your dry ingredients except the candy cane. So your flour, cornstarch, and your salt. Then with your whisk, mix everything well to combine. Next, you're gonna add in your vegan butter in large chunks into the flour. Yes, I know, it's a lot of butter. And then cut it into the flour with a dough cutter or a potato masher. I actually didn't have either of those, so I used this handy dandy little, I think it's a cutting board scraper, and it worked like a charm. So if you have one, go ahead and use it, whatever works. You're gonna wanna get the pieces of butter down to roughly the size of peas, give or take. You'll see that mine are not like completely uniform, but just do your best. Once the vegan butter is combined, then you're gonna gently stir in all of your crushed candy canes. To crush up your candy canes, I recommend breaking them into large chunks, putting them into a Ziploc bag, and wrapping them in a clean dish towel, and using your rolling pin to smash them into small pieces. You might have to work at this for just a couple minutes to make sure the pieces aren't too big. Some of mine were a little bit large, and you don't want them to be too big or else you'll get these big chunks of rock hard candy when you take a bite into your cookie, which is a no bueno. I would not recommend using a food processor. I did try that and it pretty much pulverized my candy canes into powder, so just crush them by hand. Okay, next, you're gonna wanna work that mixture with your hands until it starts to form a dough. Now this does take a little bit of elbow grease and it might take you a few minutes of kneading the dough, but I promise it will eventually start to form a dough thanks to the warmth of your hands and just the manual manipulation of the dough. Once the dough has formed, gently roll it into a ball and wrap it in plastic wrap and then toss it in the refrigerator for about an hour just to let it harden up a bit. Now that your dough has chilled in the fridge for a little while, next you're going to flour your work surface and your rolling pin and roll out your dough into a pretty thick layer, roughly anywhere between 1/4 inch and about 3/8 of an inch. You don't have to measure it, but you want nice thick cookies. Also, as you can see, I recommend just working with half your dough at a time. Also, you'll notice that I kind of paused what I was doing once I started to use my rolling pin. I left this part in the video because I made a mistake here and I wanted to show you guys so that you can learn from my mistake. I didn't work the dough enough before I started rolling it. As you can see, it kind of instantly started to crack and crumble apart, which is no bueno. So I paused, I worked the dough with my hands for about a minute just to kind of warm it up, reduce how crumbly the dough is, and just so you could roll it out better because you don't want to have crumbly dough when you're about to cut out your cookies because they won't turn out very well. All right, next you're gonna cut out your cookies using a medium-sized-ish cookie cutter. I here used a tree, but you could use any shape you want. Then place your cut out cookies on a parchment lined baking sheet and bake them for 25 minutes at 300 degrees. You want to cook them low and slow so that they don't brown. Once they're finished baking, remove them from the oven and let them cool in the pan for about 10 minutes before transferring to a cooling rack. They may not seem cooked when you remove them right from the oven, but don't let their softness and lack of browning deceive you. You do not want to brown your shortbread, as that means they've overcooked. And that is how you make vegan and gluten-free candy cane shortbread, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoy. On to the next. Next up is our Welsh tea cakes. For this recipe, you will need 1 cup of vegan butter, half a cup of white sugar, 1 flax egg, 1 cup of dried currants, 2 cups of gluten-free all-purpose flour, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, half a teaspoon of nutmeg, and 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt. Also, for this recipe, you will need an electric skillet or 2 large frying pans. Using a hand or stand mixer, cream the vegan butter in a large work bowl on high speed for about 30 seconds. Pause, add in the white sugar, and continue mixing, adding the flax egg as it creams. Make sure to scrape the bottom and sides of your work bowl as you go to ensure that the mixture is well combined. Alright, so it's time to mix the dry ingredients together, so grab yourself a large mixing bowl, add in the flour, baking powder, nutmeg, and salt, and mix it well to combine with a whisk. Next, add the dry ingredients to the butter mixture. Using a wooden spoon, stir it until the mixture begins coming together into a sort of crumbly dough. Oh, that's nice. My camera's autofocus is not focusing on the dough, but that little metal piece on my stand mixer. Oh well. So I need to add a little bit more flour to this dough, which I did, but I didn't record it, just because it's a little bit too buttery, a little too soft. It needs to firm up a little bit. So if your dough is also a little bit too buttery, just add in about a tablespoon at a time, probably up to 4 tablespoons of flour until you reach the right consistency. Add in your currants and continue stirring. Perfect. So now what you're going to want to do is grab yourself a sheet of plastic wrap and using your hands kind of form it into a ball-ish shape and seal it and let your dough chill in the fridge for 1 hour. As with the previous recipe, you're going to want to flour your work surface and your rolling pin and roll out about half the dough into a 1/4 inch thick sheet. Do be gentle with your dough as it does tend to stick to your rolling pin, so just make sure you're always flouring your rolling pin as you need to so that your dough doesn't become a bit of a jerk to work with. It's time to cut out the Welsh cakes. Using a sharp circle cookie cutter or a thin glass like mine here, cut out your Welsh cakes. A 1.5 or 2 inch circle is best, and I wouldn't recommend using any other shape as these tend to be a crumblier treat and may not hold their shape as well as a circle would. Now for this step, you'll need either an electric skillet or 1 to 2 large frying pans heating on your stovetop on medium-high heat. Plug in the electric skillet and set the temperature to about 380 degrees Fahrenheit. With that being said, I set mine to that temperature and my first batch burned on one side. Oops. So 350 might be better if yours runs hot. Once your skillet is hot, place your Welsh cake circles on your skillet and cook both sides for about 4 minutes until they begin to turn golden, as you can see here. Remove them from the skillet and place them on a cooling rack and wait until they have cooled completely before eating them. Otherwise, they're very fragile when they're warm and they tend to firm up as they cool. And that, my friends, is how you make my grandma's famous Welsh tea cakes. I hope you guys make them and enjoy them as much as I have and my family has for decades and decades. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you liked it. If you did, please give it that thumbs up, poke that subscribe button, hit that notifications bell. I've got lots more recipe videos coming up this Christmas season and in the new year that you guys do not want to miss out on, especially if you are newly vegan or gluten-free. That's it for now. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you again virtually in another recipe video. Bye!